FM 94, The Dark. It is that time again. It's time to get to know a band we play here on The Dark. And tonight on the phone, I'm talking with Psyche. I believe Psyche said she was calling from Connecticut. And so on the East Coast, we're talking with Psyche about a project or a band, we could say, Psyche Corporation. And first of all, Psyche, thanks so much for joining me on the program tonight. How you doing?
Oh, my pleasure. I'm doing just great.
Let's talk about Psyche Corporation. And obviously, for the listener out there, they've heard the music a little bit. It's definitely a unique blend of music. And I guess for you, let's kind of dive into this a little bit more and kind of find out about Psyche Corporation. How did Psyche Corporation all come about?
Well, Psyche Corporation came about in 2007 when, actually, it was more than 2005. I was sitting in this room in New York City with this guy who wanted to do a deal with me where he would make 3 songs and he'd shop it to labels. But before we did that, he said, take a week, think about what concept you want for your music and your band, and it's got to be something you can stick with for the next 10 years if this thing goes big. Long story short, I didn't end up working with him long term, but that's when I came up with the concept for Psyche Corporation. I wanted something that would be me, but have room for me to grow in whatever direction I wanted to grow. So I thought, why not base this band on a backstory where people in the future are downloading dreams from the internet and make this a dream manufacture company that sells dreams. Then, if I make any songs that are a little bit strange or not based on things I made before, I could say, this is a dream that we designed at Psyche Corporation, which is from the future.
Very cool, very cool. And, obviously the music, I've listened to a couple of songs, so I know I haven't had a chance to listen to a lot of the music that you've had. But the songs that I have heard, though, there's a lot of different influences in the music. I guess talk about the influences and where you got your influences to make music.
All right. Yeah, there are definitely a lot of different influences in my music. I've had influences anywhere from the game dodgeball that people play, in school where they throw balls at each other. I've also been influenced by being stuck in an elevator once when someone said, this elevator is insane, and I wrote a song about insane elevators called The Ceiling. But more specifically, let me talk about the new album. It's called Romance of the Counter Elite. I think that's what you were sent recently. And the first song is called Annabelle Lee, and it's a cover of a well-known poem by Edgar Allan Poe, who's one of my absolute favorite poets. And Annabelle Lee is it's a beautiful poem about sort of a child bride who dies far too soon, and really, it's really well written, and I've always thought it would make for a great song. So it's the first cover song I ever did, and what do you know? It's a cover of a poem. Another song on there, let's see, is a song called Dance for Me. I don't know if you heard that one, but it's about being micromanaged. There's the time when I was working at this job and somebody was somebody supervising me. It felt like this person was micromanaging every little thing I did, down to the font I was using in my presentations, and I just felt sometimes like a puppet on a string, like this person needed to control my every move, and it ended up becoming a song about making a puppet, i.e. a marionette, dance for you. And musically, I got the idea for that. I don't know where I got I got inspired to make some of the music for that by listening to this band from upstate New York. They have this one song that has one part with some drumming in it and some hi-hat, and it's really only like 10 seconds of, maybe less than 10 seconds of drumming that really inspired some of the percussion in the beginning of the song, and I guess, yeah, and then everything just evolved from there. So for me, it'll be like I'll listen to one part of one song from one band and think, oh, I could use this little piece, and then go somewhere completely different.
Very cool, very cool. And we're talking with Psyche from Psyche Corporation. I guess musical background for you, and when I've listened to a couple of the songs and that, I kind of hear a little bit of a kind of a classical sound to your voice. Have you had any of that kind of training, or not at all?
Oh, yeah. So when I was 13, I took about 6 months of opera lessons, which was really great for me. And then I took another 6 months of opera lessons when I was about 17. And that's where all the operatic or classical stuff comes from. I also really love Phantom of the Opera and a few other musicals. So I think you can probably hear that some of the stuff I do is sort of like a musical. I've tried to be less to sound less like I'm writing a song in a musical and sound a little bit more like I'm writing a song on a CD, but it's still a piece. Or
obviously, mentioning the music, it's so unique in that. I mean, and I guess where would you kind of look at? I don't know what the exact question I'm looking here, but I guess if you had to market the music, what kind of genre would you put it under?
This is a tough question. I thought about it a lot of different ways.
Right.
When I write, so part of being in a band involves playing shows, and for me, my major market is these conventions that young people go to, like anime conventions.
Yep.
Or science fiction conventions,
Yep.
steampunk conventions. And the way I describe my music to those people, like when I'm applying for these conventions, I say that it's alternative world music.
Okay.
So if you think about world music, you're using a lot of non-traditional instruments, combining them in unusual ways. Monarchy, which is a song on the new album, uses sort of like I guess Middle Eastern belly dance kind of percussion and mixes that with some more classical piano stuff at points. I don't know if it uses classical piano stuff, but it uses Middle Eastern percussion and these other elements that I got from listening to Celtic symphonic music.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of mishmash that you see in world music, but it also has these sounds like these sort of dark industrial sound elements to them that I think characterize a lot of alternative stuff.
And I can definitely hear a lot of that dark industrial in a lot of the music, at least the songs that I've heard too in that. So we're talking with Psyche from Psyche Corporation. The name Psyche Corporation, how did you guys come up with that? And even your name Psyche, how did that come all about?
Oh, okay. So Psyche comes from like this Greek mythological character who I think falls in love with the god of love. So I thought it was a very romantic name, and it also is another word for the mind. So in trying to make up this story, like this back concept for the band, I thought this would be a great name for a dream manufacture company that tries to design dreams to please people psychologically. What do I want to say? Oh, have you ever heard of Coheed and Cambria?
Yes, I have. In fact, we're playing their current song "Here to Mars" right now on the airwaves.
Oh, wonderful! Yeah, I believe Coheed and Cambria also have a sort of backstory to their
yes.
music, and there's even a graphic novel. I think.
Absolutely.
And so that's sort of where I think Psyche Corporation is similar, because there's the music, and then there's this whole backstory of things going on in the world of the band that I try to reference in a way that's not way too specific in my music, but I try to have more universal themes. So, I guess the name Psyche Corporation is just referencing this backstory where you're living in this world in the future where people can connect to the internet with brain implants, and that also allows them to download dreams. And my name, Psyche, is based on this character in the world who becomes CEO of the corporation. She starts out with a different name, but when she becomes nominated for the running to be elected to CEO or something, she decides to legally change her name to Psyche to show how much she supports the company.
Very cool. Wow, that's fascinating. Fascinating stuff. We're talking with Psyche here from Psyche Corporation. How about, you mentioned you play at the kind of different shows, the sci-fi, different things like that. When somebody comes to watch you perform in your show, I guess, what do they see? What do they feel? What's it like going to a Psyche Corporation show?
Oh, I brought out a lot of elements, I think, from, there's this thing called Visual K in Asian music that involves people in bands who dress up very glamorously in dramatic makeup, dramatic outfits. They're think David Bowie, plus a lot of goth. Not that he's not already pretty goth. And so that's the sort of outfit that I might wear to these shows. People describe the performance as mesmerizing.
I can see that.
And I'm very flattered by that. I try to do what I can to create a cool show. So I'll be on stage singing. Sometimes if my cellist and my guitarist are able to make it, they're also there. Over the years, we've collaborated with a lot of different live musicians. At one time, we had a stick player, a Chaplin stick player, and he actually played with us in Texas when we were doing an anime convention there earlier this June, and it was fantastic. So he decided to bring his guitar that time because stick is I guess it's really difficult to get a stick on an airplane because it looks like a gun.
Yeah, nowadays it's a little tougher to do anything, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Psyche, we're talking with Psyche Corporation here, and we're talking with Psyche. I want to get to know a little bit more about you, obviously, and that might kind of help us out, too, and why you made the music that you've made. Growing up as a kid, what were some of the influences of music that you listened to?
To start with some more familiar bands, I really love Within Temptation. The main singer there is one of my idols in singing. She's also done some collaborations with Nightwish in the past, and I think Nightwish is the more famous of the female-fronted, operatic female-fronted metal bands.
Yeah, Within Temptation is an incredible band, by the way, which is on our airwaves too here, which we love spinning them.
Yeah, they're just one of my all-time favorite bands. So they had a release called The Heart of Everything a few years ago, and funny thing, I happened to be talking to somebody who was friends with the head of their label at the time, and he just randomly handed me a copy of that album while I was standing there. It was one of the most amazing things that's happened to me.
Wow. Very cool. Very cool. So, obviously that's a couple of bands. And I guess one of the questions I like to ask when I talk to bands or artists is if you had to put together a 3-band bill, so Psyche Corporation's going to go out on a tour, who would you like to hang out with and tour with?
Oh, wow. I'd love to go Within Temptation, but I feel like their style is a little bit different from what I do. So I guess I would tour with maybe Zoe Keating / Rasputina. They were a band that was, I guess, really, they were really popular in the early 2000s, doing cello goth rock, Victorian cello goth rock, which I think is amazing. There's another band that singer-songwriter based in San Francisco who I love called Unwoman.
Okay.
She's also like one of my big inspirations. She's opened for Abney Park in the past. I might go with Abney Park. Abney Park is basically the most famous steampunk band in the world,
Right.
along with, like, I guess, Steampunk Giraffe. So Abney Park, I think, is more similar to what I do music-wise.
Very cool. Very cool. Have you done any, I guess, collaborations with anybody else at this time right now? Are you still kind of maybe in the infancy, I guess, of your career for doing things like that?
So I have a couple of collaborations in the works. Like I've collaborated with some local bands in upstate New York.
Okay.
And I'm in the process of collaborating with a couple of somewhat more well-known groups. So there's this person named Paul Chimère, who is the creator of one of the two steampunk rock operas in the world. It's called The Dolls of New Albion. It's amazing. I definitely recommend it. It's got all of these sonic elements that I really love in a musical, and it's about this mad scientist who brings a person to life and creates a zombie religion by accident. And I got in contact with him randomly. Yeah, right. I definitely recommend it. And I got in contact with him randomly a few weeks ago, and when he was working on some other project, and he said that he loves my voice and that we definitely have to do something together. So we might do a rock opera together, which would be wonderful.
That'd be very cool. Very cool. That would be very cool. We're talking. What else? Go ahead. Go ahead. What else did you have?
By strange coincidence, I am also. So I said there are two steampunk rock operas that are like out in the world that I know of. Paul Chimère is the one who made the most famous one.
Right.
The other one, which was made, I think, like 2 years before he released his, was written by the same guy who started Steampunk World's Fair, which is the largest steampunk convention in the world.
Yes.
And composed by me. He actually hired me to do all the music and vocals for that rock opera in 2010 while I was doing a bunch of other things in New York City. So I would be sort of the missing link between the two steampunk rock operas, because I composed one of them, and then the person who did the other one might work with me.
Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy stuff. We're talking with Psyche from Psyche Corporation. You know, you mentioned you've gone to these different festivals and different things, conventions and that. Have you had a chance to ever come up to Minnesota here before?
I haven't yet, but I really want to. I did my first show in the Midwest only last month, actually.
Okay.
And I'm gonna do another one on Saturday in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay.
So yeah, it's called the Time Travelers Ball. It's put on by the Pandora Society. It's in Cincinnati, Ohio. It'll also be my first time in Ohio.
Very cool. How about can more people find out about your music and kind of what exactly you all do? Where can they find? I'm assuming all the social medias and that have you?
Yeah, absolutely. So people can find my music at psychecorporation.com. That's PSYCHE corporation.com. They can also find me on Facebook /Psyche Corp, Twitter. It's just really all Psyche Corp. So Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. I have a bunch of music videos on YouTube. I have some free downloads at the main website, so it's definitely worth checking out.
Very good, very good. You know, last question I want to ask you this, and I'm really curious to see what your answer is going to be on this, but the question I asked all artists is if there was a song that you had in your arsenal of music, what artist would you like to cover one of your songs? What artist out there would you like somebody to do your song?
Wow.
Yeah.
What would I want them to cover? I think it would be really interesting for Skrillex to cover my song.
Actually, you know what? I could see that. And the thing is, the one thing I've noticed with your music, and like I said, I haven't heard all of your music yet, but I haven't noticed a lot of percussion, drum, stuff like that in there. And do you do much of that or not?
Yeah, I do. I do everything. I
Okay.
do all of the production for all of the studio albums,
Okay.
except for 3 songs from like 2005.
Right. But yeah, Skrillex would be something that'd be really cool. They could just enhancify what you're already doing. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. I would be all over that. I've always wanted to be more dynamic with beats because that's the thing I'm most insecure about.
Okay.
Like when I started, I just didn't know anything about it, and so I took it as a challenge, and now I'm really, really into percussion.
Very cool. Yeah, I could definitely see that. We'll have to make that happen sometime. Don't you think, Psyche?
Yes. Any secret strings you may have for listeners out there, just tell Skrillex that he should remix Psyche Corporation, and it will be psychedelic.
That would be very cool, very cool. Psyche, it's been a lot of fun talking to you, getting to know more about your music and that. And once again, thanks so much for joining me today here on The Dark.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure.
Once again, that is Psyche from Psyche Corporation.